Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this very special BWH Dialogue session. While this has been overdue for us, it is a special for we are doing it as it coincides with our 7th anniversary, and special because Rajeev Menon is here with us, virtually though, but all the way from Singapore. Better known as Raj Menon, he's a man of many experiences, many assignments, and currently the President, Asia Pacific, excluding Greater China, at Marriott International. Rajeev Menon is a true hotelier by heart, with over 3 decades worth of experience. Rajiv has been in the hotel business since the very start of his career. With over 19 years with Marriott International, Rajiv, who's currently based in Singapore, is a key member of the continent's senior leadership team and functions as the operational leader for the region. He's responsible for the business performance and helps drive key initiatives and ensures implementation of brand and discipline programs. Today, apart from overseeing Marriott's business in APEC, Rajiv also holds the position of the Vice Chair of the Tourism Committee for the US and ASEAN Business Council. This comes after his tenure as the Deputy Chairman of the Accommodation Division on the board of Australian Hotels Association. That was between 2005 and 2007. Rajiv has lived across the world, across multiple major cities within the last 30 years, moving between Sydney, Delhi, Mumbai, and Singapore. In his current role, Rajiv and his family, as I said, are based out of Singapore. Welcome to the show, Rajiv.
Thank you so much. You're very kind, Bhuvnesh.
All right. Without much ado, I shall get rolling with what I've lined up for you. Rajiv, you're not just a senior hotelier today. Being in the business for over 30 years, you're also one of the more successful hotelier and CX4 export from India, if I may say so. And India has had this export for the industry globally. While we'd want you to do a freewheel on this, reminiscing your journey thus far in your own words, how would you define a true hotelier?
So when I look back at my career, I have to say that my first love or aspiration was to become a fighter pilot, actually, for Indian Air Force. But my eyes did not let me follow that passion. And hotels was close second, and that's what I chose. I still remember having passed a few written exams and had the opportunity of following my father's footsteps, who retired as a senior executive in Indian Railways. I had to sit him down one day to say, listen, I really don't want to join the government. I want to follow my passion of being a hotelier. And I have to say my parents have been incredibly supportive. And that's how the journey started. I did my hotel management and was lucky enough to be picked up as a management trainee with ITC, where I started my career. And then soon after, moved over across to Australia and just continued to build my career. When I look back at the last 30 plus years, I always say with much respect that India taught me true hospitality. Australia, on the other hand, taught me true resource management. And it's this exposure of having worked in different markets, learning from pretty much every person that you work with and every market that you work with, really makes you a better leader. And I would not, call myself a true hotelier. I would still call myself an aspiring hotelier, because that learning journey never stops. And likes of Mr. Marriott, or even Mr. Oberoi, they are the true hoteliers. We are just, aspiring hoteliers, just following some of the great work they've been doing over the many, many years. Thank you.
That's being grounded. That's rather humble of you. We know where you are and how you're doing. But then those are signs of a great leader. In long, solid innings at Marriott, now almost over 20 years, if you will tell us about this stint in some detail, and looking back from where you've reached, there have to be traits and disciplines that have helped you to be the leader that you are today. In brief, what are those and how have these contributed to your success and growth?
So I've had an incredible journey with Marriott. I will say just the core philosophy of the company has always sat well with me. And these values in simple terms has been that if we take great care of our people will take great care of our customers, and our customers will come back, and the business will take care of itself. That's how senior Mr. and Mrs. Marriott started the company. And those, core values still stand strong today. I joined Marriott almost 21 years ago in Sydney, Australia, and was asked at that point in time to actually move to India to open what was going to be the second hotel Marriott was opening in Mumbai, which was the Renaissance Mumbai Hotel and Convention Center. And we also had the Marriott Executive Apartments there. And I remember showing up in Mumbai, having spent some time there previously at the Sea Rock Sheraton. I remember showing up in Mumbai and kind of saying, where am I? When I got up in the morning and opened those curtains, and I was at Powai Lake, which only till a few years ago, one would say was outside of Mumbai to some degree. And this is the nature of how metros, cities like Delhi and Mumbai have grown, that, CBDs and SBDs and what we call as peripheral business districts became big centers of business, and launched that particular hotel. But that launch wasn't the easiest, in the sense that our official launch date was 15th of September 2001, and we all know what happened on the 11th of September 2001 back in US. And $1 million worth of reservations walked out of the door before we had even opened the doors. But I was blessed with an incredible team around me, and we made a commitment to ourselves that we will get this hotel going and we'll make a success out of it. So we had a team of 600 people. We were given a difficult choice at that point in time. If we wanted to, go on to major contingency and lay off some people, and we decided as a team, no. So we literally cut the team in half, and half of the team would go out every single day, knocking on the doors of offices, business centers around Powai and around the airport area, and just basically asking people, hey, we've opened a new hotel, come and try us. And I it's been many years. I say that in September, we ran 18% occupancy in that hotel. October, which was hit pretty hard, was down to 9%. But November, we got to 24% and we broke even. And food and beverage started to fire. And we've never looked back since. In fact, that hotel ended up becoming one of the most successful properties that Marriott has, or for that matter, the hotel industry has, because our partners have continued to, acquire more land and build more rooms, and it's almost 1,000 keys today. So that was my start of the journey with Marriott. From there, I was sent across back to Australia to run Australia and New Zealand, and then shipped back to India a few years later because we were managing India out of Hong Kong, and South Asia had started to grow for us. We had 6 hotels at that point in time. And when you look back, that was back in 2007. And today, across South Asia alone, Marriott has 138 hotels. So, from my perspective, again, we pulled together an incredible team focused on driving results, and touch wood. Business just grew and grew. And as I said earlier, simply based on this core value, get the right team around you, take great care of your people, and they'll take great care of your customers. Then the company asked me to move across to Singapore, although our headquarters was in Hong Kong. Early on, our president at that point in time, Mr. Simon Cooper, had a vision that he wanted to get another step base set up in Singapore, because we were growing across Asia Pacific. And I remember when I got into the job as CEO for APEC, as we call it, which is Asia Pacific ex-China, we really had 110 hotels in my part of the world. And that was early 2015. But by the end of 2015, we had announced the Starwood acquisition. And Starwood headquarters happened to be for Asia in Singapore. So it all came together. And, today we have 470 operating hotels in APEC alone, and China has similar numbers. With the Starwood integration, which was incredible learning experience. I would say that, it's touch wood, it's gone really well, and we haven't looked back since. And then finally, the company decided to, push me into the president's job in 2019, and here I am today. But I'm ever so grateful to the company for the journey I've had, but more importantly, to the people around me, for my team that I'm so very proud of.
Brilliant. So it's always nice to look back and reminisce the achievements, the steps that we have taken, the steps that the organization has taken, and both of you together. That brings me to our next query. Help our readers know Raj Menon, the man, the entrepreneur, his work ethic, and his vision. You've silently worked away from the limelight, carving a niche for Marriott in a fiercely competitive industry.
So I will simply say that my mantra has been to get the right team around me, empower them, and then just simply focus on performance, because performance trumps all. Often we all get caught up in the noise, but if we just focus on driving the results, everything else just usually follows. Raj Menon as a man, as I said earlier, came from a middle-class family, studied and grew up in Delhi, and then decided to travel the world. Married an Australian girl. We've got 3 kids, and we are obviously based here in Singapore. But for me, my journey in hotels, as I continue to say, it's truly about following my passion. I've loved every bit of it. And everywhere I've gone, I've learned, something new. And I was earlier talking about Australia and resource management. On a personal front, my love of wine came in Australia. I started to do a lot of winemaker dinners with different winemakers, and ended up meeting one such gentleman who was in his 70s when I was in my 20s. And he used to call me his only Indian son, Marriott. But the learning I had from him just made me start to appreciate wine. And why I'm saying this is because as leaders, as hoteliers, as business people, we all have to be inquisitive. We all have to be learning every single day. And that entrepreneurial piece is really about watching the trends and looking for opportunities. And where you see the opportunity, then you push yourself to get into that space and get better and better, get deeper knowledge base, test things out, take risks, and sometimes you fail. And for me, failing is necessarily not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing, because failure is what eventually brings you success. And it's those things that make you the person you are. On personal front, we are blessed with 3 great kids. So, wind down for me is hanging out with the family, having a great meal. I love to play tennis. My regime of fitness is all around, if I can, in a very simple way, I target to do a marathon a week, not in 1 day, not in 2 days, but over 7 days. And if I can just do that every single week, I know I've met my goal. So it is really about setting yourself very simple goals that you can push yourself against and just continue to build from there on. And that's the person I am. So I continue to be a believer that if you love what you do, you won't have to work a day.
Brilliant. I mean, that sets you apart. The work-life balance is extremely important, and one has to gauge one's own fitness and where you are. I'm not as blessed as you are, so there's much for me to learn from you. Having said that, as the President, Asia Pacific for Marriott, what are some of the tough calls and innovative programs that you've introduced to address the challenges posed by the pandemic over the last 2 years?
So, Bhuvnesh, I will say this, that pandemic single-handedly has been the toughest testing point for many of us in the industry. It has, been incredibly hard on us individually, on our families, in many cases, having lost loved ones, and then obviously on business. It's been particularly tough on the entire travel and tourism industry. When you look around the world, well over 150 million jobs were displaced in the last couple of years. At Marriott, I will say this, that something we did pre-COVID, and again, there was no such thought process that, if COVID happens, we'd be well prepared. We did it because it was the right thing to do at that point in time, but ended up being godsend. Was that as we were integrating with Starwood, we decided, rather than having large regional offices, we focused on putting our resources closest to the market. By that I mean across Asia Pacific. I have some 22 odd countries. We have a full office in Japan. We have a full team in Australia running the Pacific. We have a full team in Korea, a full team in Bangkok, obviously a large setup in Singapore, and 3 full offices in India. Also a reasonably large office in Indonesia. Now, why do I say this? Because our belief is that our leaders, our teams, when they're on the ground, they can engage with our partners, they can engage with our associates, they can come up with localized solutions to do what is necessary and be nimble to react to tough environments. And when COVID hit, that is the godsend piece that I talk about. Our teams on the ground were nimble, were very quickly able to engage with our partners and we took some hard decisions. But it was based on, as I said, what was the need of the market, both on the cost side as well as on the top line side. It allowed us to react at a much faster pace. Me as a leader, what I did do over the last couple of years is, when a pandemic of this sort hits, or you get into a major crisis like this, often there is a lot of stuff that is not in your control.
True.
My focus has been to think about what is in my control and really push the teams to drive what is in our control and focus on those opportunities. Even in the darkest time, we need to, at least from my perspective, we need to look at the glass half full versus looking at the glass half empty. Look for the opportunities, and when you look for these opportunities and continue to pursue them and really proactively chase after stuff, you see that there is some golden nuggets out there. And I had learned early on in my career that you never lose a good crisis. So you turn the crisis into an opportunity. And touch wood, our teams that I'm incredibly proud of did just that. So take India as an example. On the top line, we launched during pandemic, Marriott Bonvoy on Wheels. Now, if you had asked me pre-pandemic how much of takeaway delivery business you were doing, Marriott was doing, I would have looked at you and gone, we're not in the business of doing takeaways and delivery, right? But last year, for the incredible work our teams did, we generated across APEC, my world, millions and millions of dollars of revenue. Now, that was true innovation at a time when, everybody was down and out. There were other incredible examples of innovation that came from ground up. Pre-COVID, we would talk about innovation. In some cases, as organizations, you want to push innovation downwards. But COVID was the time our teams have always been empowered, and with their back to the wall, they figured out some incredible ways to drive top line. On the cost front, we had to take some very difficult decisions, and we did. But we were thoughtful. We made sure as we displaced, some jobs got displaced, that we were fair. During that period, what I was incredibly proud of is for the jobs we had to displace, our HR acquisition team became what I used to call as an outsourcing team. So they went and spoke to all our partners, likes of DHL, Amazon, big companies that we do business with, and said, listen, we are forced to let people go, but these are our family members. We want to take care of them. So our partners, likes of, DHL, Amazon, bunch of other companies, they started to give preference to Marriott associates. And number of associates took up these opportunities, only to then come back as we've been starting to rehire, our old alumni. So it really is about taking a crisis like the one we are going through right now, and just really saying, one, what is in my control? What can I do versus worrying about what is not in my control? Two, really looking at the glass half full and focusing on the opportunities. When you start to do that, you create an environment in your business where everybody is hungry and wants to do more. And as I said earlier, we've always been blessed with an incredible team who really go hard about taking good care of each other. So even in the darkest hour of second quarter last year, when we were losing people, unfortunately, because of the Delta variant through South Asia and particularly India, our teams had set up these virtual take care centers in each of the big markets where we operate. Now, we had a lot of associates that couldn't get hospital beds, that couldn't get oxygen cylinders. But in working through these take care centers, with help from our owner partners, we were able to save a number of lives.
Touch wood.
I genuinely hope we could have done more, but just so incredibly proud of what we were able to do. We moved very quickly as a company on the vaccination piece, right? And I know other companies try to do similar stuff, but getting most of our associates vaccinated was an important responsibility that we had, and we delivered against it. So these are some of the examples of how we went about in managing or navigating our way through the pandemic. And I continue to say this, that if we had tried to do everything out of Singapore, we would have probably failed. True. Having teams on the ground who were very engaged and empowered to make decisions was really godsend, and they delivered. They delivered exceptional results for us, to the point across Asia and around the world, Bhuvnesh, we every year, like we do our guest satisfaction survey, we do our associate satisfaction survey, we do our owner satisfaction survey. And I have to say, in 21, every one of those numbers were up against pre-COVID.
Oh, excellent.
So that tells you that, it's just been an incredible team effort. Now, I can't say that, revenues are pre-COVID levels, because they are not, they are far from it.
True.
But there are a number of other things that we've been able to do right. And I'm just very, very proud of the team for that.
Now, having said that, you see, everybody hits a bump sometime or the other. Our entire planet has hit one big one, right? But it's the human side of our team, our organization, and the people with whom we work. For instance, you just spoke about your outplacement effort with DHL, Amazon, and the other partners that you had. Now, this is where you come out shining, not for a badge on your lapel, but for the sincere effort. So you should feel very proud about it. And I have been working with the Marriott leadership in India, and I know what all you have done. I shall let you speak. You've spoken about a bit, but yes, a lot done.
No, thank you.
That is excellent. I shall now move to the other part. It would be interesting to have a brief overview of the Marriott portfolio in the region you govern, right? APEC, including South Asia and India in particular. What is Marriott's pipeline for the Asia Pacific market? If you can give us a bird's eye feel with some numbers, for instance, countries, locations, brands, hotels, and rooms.
So across APEC, and I said, I'm responsible for about 22 markets across Asia Pacific. We have 470 operating hotels, and we have close to 280 hotels under construction as we speak. Marriott has the largest pipeline of any branded hotel company in APEC, ex-China. So, extremely proud of the growth we are seeing. South Asia for us is our largest market, single market, India, where we have 127 operating hotels. South Asia, which includes countries like Sri Lanka, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Nepal, we have 138 hotels in total. And we are well on our way to 200 hotels by 2025 in South Asia alone. We have a pipeline of 80 plus hotels just in that region itself. But when you look across the board, Japan, for example, we have 73 operating hotels today, and we will cross 100 in the next 2 years. So we are seeing incredible growth across Asia Pacific, in fact, globally. And it's really driven by the incredible brands that the company has, but also more importantly, our very strong loyalty program. Marriott Bonvoy today globally has 160 million members. In Asia Pacific, all of Asia Pacific, we have 57 million members. And pre-COVID, I can tell you the strength of the program, we were signing close to 1 million members a month. That's how strong the Marriott Bonvoy program was, and it continues to remain strong. We've been signing a number of partnerships across Asia Pacific. So when you look at where we are today to where we're going to be in 5 years from now, we are well poised for some incredible growth in front of us. In fact, in the fourth quarter of this year, we are going to open our 1,000th hotel in Asia Pacific, and that includes Greater China.
Excellent.
So when you think about, it was only a few years ago when we acquired Starwood. In Asia Pacific, Starwood was actually bigger than us. At that time, we had 330 hotels on Starwood side. We had 220 hotels on Marriott side. So combined, we were at 550. This is at the end of 2016. And by end of 22, we'll be opening our 1,000th hotel across Asia Pacific. That speaks volumes to not only the incredible brand, loyalty, but more importantly, as I continue to say, the incredible teams that we have that make it happen every single day.
So yeah, I agree. I mean, you have an incredible team there. I have a pointed question on that also. How important, coming from your response here, how important is India in the Marriott scheme of things? And what are some of the challenges and opportunities for a market as demanding as India? Indian consumers are extremely discerning and demanding.
So, Bhuvnesh, when you look across Asia Pacific, I've always said this, that India is strategically an incredibly important market for us. Just look at distribution. It's second biggest in distribution after Greater China or after mainland. Our journey in India has been phenomenal. We have grown exponentially. We have some great brands throughout the country. The Bonvoy program is much loved by the Indian consumer. And I have always had this belief that India remains decades-long growth story. Growth story not only for us, but I talk broadly from an industry point of view, right? When you look at the number of hotel rooms India has in comparison to, say, China or US, US has well north of 5.5 million hotel rooms. the numbers in India are minuscule and the opportunity for growth is tremendous. Now, my journey with Marriott and India is kind of, from a timeline perspective, well over 20 years. And again, I was born, brought up in India and started my career in India, but I'm just talking about the transformation India has had in the last, 20 odd years. It's been tremendous in terms of the growth on travel and tourism. And that is going to continue to grow. So when I talk about 200 hotels by 2025 across South Asia, I can tell you 90+% is going to be in India, right? And we see growth opportunity in the luxury space. We see growth opportunity in premium and in select service. You look at in the last 22 months, for example, which have been the toughest time in the industry, right? Marriott has signed 24 deals across South Asia. So single-handedly, we've been very busy signing new deals with partners that want to continue to grow with us. And in many cases, these are luxury hotels in resort destinations where in the past, you wouldn't have seen too many luxury hotels come up, right? So as India's infrastructure continues to improve, and I have to give the government credit, they have been very active on improving infrastructure. Indians continue to acquire wealth, large population base. What COVID has done, the positive of COVID has been in every country around the world, people have almost been forced to travel in their own backyard and explore their own backyard. And India has been no different. You look at, the appreciation that people are getting out of just getting out and about and exploring parts of India. And India has always had this incredibly amazing landscape, right? And diverse. So we think that, as I said earlier, it remains a decades-long growth story for us as well as for the industry at large.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. But sitting far, Raj, if you were to see the Indian hospitality industry, crystal ball glazing in the future, say 3 to 5 years, what's your view about the Indian hospitality industry? And more specifically, your outlook for 2022. What are your plans to capitalize the emerging opportunities?
So I've always been bullish on India, and I remain bullish on India. And our growth of our teams, everything we've done reflects that, right? I think the important piece to remember is that COVID has taught us few important lessons, how we use these effectively and continue to learn, build, and improve ourselves is going to be critical. To me, that digital transformation that we've seen all stakeholders go through, they've almost leapfrogged in the use of technology, is going to be important for us and the industry at large to make sure that we are savvy enough to continue to deploy those technologies, typically largely driven by contactless experiences, that we are able to improve productivity levels while delivering the amazing experiences that India has always been able to deliver. I remain very, very bullish about the next 3 to 5 years, Why? More so because the Indian consumer has had the opportunity to explore India. So you're going to see more of that happening. People are taking short breaks. And then as the infrastructure improves, you're going to have the ability for the foreign traveler to travel afar, further than they ever did within India. And then finally, I think, our business goes in cycles in terms of growth and new development. There is definitely development happening, but not at the pace that we had seen previously. So that, that will make sure that any additional hotels that come online is going to be, that capacity will be absorbed reasonably quickly. And as a result, you will see opportunity to not only have stronger occupancies, but more importantly, be able to drive rate, which is important. So to me, if you can drive better RevPAR, you can continue to build on the great food and beverage experiences that Indians expect and we can deliver against, and have improved productivity levels. That means better results all around. So that's the 3 to 5 year story. When you talk about 22, again, one thing we've seen in the last 2 years of the pandemic, that you get these waves, and obviously Delta was devastating. The first wave was obviously devastating, and now India is dealing through its third wave, which is Omicron, and you see business levels kind of get reduced. But as soon as these waves start to diminish, and states and the central government starts to relax restrictions, people come out and business jumps dramatically. And that's the beauty of India. To put it into perspective, you have an incredible base of 1.3 billion people, versus when you look at Southeast Asia, for example, which was heavily reliant on inbound travel, they have suffered more, right? So I see this particular wave, again, if you listen to different medical experts and they'll give you different perspectives. But one of the things we are hearing is that Omicron, as infectious as it is less severe to health, and that it could, go through the communities at a very fast pace, and as a result, end up creating herd immunity. And if that happens in the next 60 to 90 days, then you will see business levels come back pretty strongly in the second quarter. And then that would, work its way through. So in comparison to last calendar year, I believe this calendar year is going to be a lot better, mostly driven by domestic front. We as a company believe that domestic recovery will exceed 2019 domestic travel. In terms of international, it really remains to be seen on how the restrictions play out. But you will get some international recovery this year, but more so next year, with full international recovery, from my perspective, back in 24.
I couldn't agree with you more. Your numbers almost overlap. Your predictions almost overlap. I may be a little more aggressive than you are. Me and my entire extended family, we've just come out of the Omicron. It was like a normal flu. So we didn't have to get hospitalized. We were at home. It was a party out there. But we're absolutely aggressively looking to get out, right? And also let me bring in here an unplanned query, which is about staycations, right? About homestays. People are getting out. You know, your Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore are not the yardstick of success of our industry. It's all the other locations, the Himalayas, Rajasthan, and so on and so forth. Your view?
Listen, as I just said to you, Indians are exploring their backyard, and they are doing so more so than they've ever done before, right?
Absolutely.
We all grew up. I grew up in Delhi. We would go to Shimla, Mussoorie. Those were the usual hotspots, right? You didn't really travel beyond some of these places, but now with improved infrastructure, with more hotels, more homestays, more options available, people are willing to explore. And that's the amazing thing, that what COVID has also done is pushed us outdoors. And as far as I'm concerned, it's here to stay. So people, once they're used to something and once they start to appreciate something, even though this travel lust, as I call it, for international will be there. And once international borders open, people will want to get out and travel the world. But I don't think they're going to lose the desire to travel around their own backyard, to continue to kind of take kids and families for these short breaks that they may have not been doing before. So when you talk to a lot of people today, one of the single biggest trends we see is what we call as bleisure, right? People are traveling on business, but taking families with them and using a blend of business and leisure, blending it, mixing it all up. So that is going to continue. I don't think it's a short-term phenomenon.
True. You've over the past few minutes, you've spoken a few times about leadership, about people, your core strengths of Marriott. Staying with India, you have the core of an excellent leadership, right? Led by a very focused and solid Neeraj Govil, or a second line of Ranju, Jatin, Gaurav, or your PR or COM effort led by Khushnuma. You have something very strong going in there. And these are leaders who deliver on the trot to help realize your objectives and vision. Can you detail this important piece, especially in the context of changes that have been effected in 2021?
So having an incredible team around you, for me, is always been critical, but never been more important than at a time of crisis, right? And that's what I continue to say. We have been blessed with having this core group of talented leaders who are empowered, who have the ability to make decisions and run the business and create these localized solutions. And let me take a step back for a second. As an organization, many years ago, when we started our journey in India, what we found was, and this is no disrespect to expats or people from other countries. I've traveled the world, worked in many countries, and I think the world of professionals. But there was a bias towards, having a certain leadership positions held by expats. Very early on, we took the decision that we were going to focus on grooming locals. And as a company, we would focus on sending this talent out of India to work in different locations around the world, with a view that one day we could bring them back, right? If they so desired to come back. And to be perfectly honest, that has paid incredible dividends. Because today, when you look at the leadership across the country, it's all locals. Somebody like a Neeraj, who joined me as a restaurant manager back in 2001, has grown immensely as a leader, but has also had this opportunity to travel the world, right? If you ask him, he has worked in Australia, he's worked in Vietnam, he's worked in Hong Kong, he's worked in China, may have been in one or two other places that I might be missing, and then back home to India. So to me, focusing on the local talent, giving them global opportunities, empowering them, but then telling them and creating a framework, which again, in our world, we call it as the balanced scorecard.
True.
Be able to focus on few key priorities and drive results, has really shown some great results. And I have to say that when you are everybody wants to be part of a winning team. So it takes a while to create that momentum. But once that momentum gets going, then it moves by itself. But as a leader, you got to lead from the front. You got to stand by those principles, and you got to make sure that you are driving and pushing. And I always say pushing the benchmark a little higher every single year. And honestly, often we all think that we've reached our limit, but as Mr. Marriott says, success is never final. And honestly, just as you think you've kind of reached your peak, there is another peak. So you just continue to build on it. And that's a great thing about, great leaders.
So your real good stock is your leadership stock, your second line. There should never be a void, and people should grow, and nobody should be insecure. So like you just spoke about the number of regions that Neeraj has worked in, or for that matter, you've worked in. So that gives you a well-rounded view of via the experience that you gain. So there you are. I also often ask this of leaders, and I shall ask you too. It is incumbent for leaders like you to bequeath to the industry a rich stock of leadership talent, to handhold and pass on that classic baton. You some time ago spoke about Marriott, right? Be it about Oberoi's and how Mr. Oberoi did it, right? Or ITC where you work, or Taj for that matter. This baton has to be passed to the coming generations, much in the same manner that it was done with you. Your views?
So I have always, been passionate about it. As I said, for years, what makes me extremely proud is that I can today land in most countries around the world, and I can assure you that there would be somebody from India working in a Marriott hotel, right? And their growth would have been through having worked in different hotels around. There were years, Bhuvnesh, that we were sending over 1,000 people out of India in a year. And while we don't have a hotel school per se, right? We've always believed that giving these real lifetime on-the-job experiences to our associates and giving them the opportunity to travel the world and build their careers, there is no better learning school than that. Now, unfortunately, last couple of years, because of COVID, most governments have kind of shut their borders down, and it's been particularly challenging. But you look at around most countries, our focus and my belief always is, any market you go into, nobody knows that market better than the locals, right? What is our responsibility as a leader? To provide them with the skills, give them the exposure, and empower them in the decision-making process. But if we can add this piece of making them what I call as glocal, which is a global leader with a very strong local footing, you have a competitive advantage.
True.
So I have to say that we have been blessed to have some incredible talent all over the world, many of who today are willing to come back home as opportunities pop up, right? As much as they want to go out. Because there was a time when India was going through a bit of brain drain. Today, a lot of this talent is up and ready to come back if there is a need.
Excellent.
You are in Delhi, you look at Jatin. Jatin has traveled around and worked. So, from that perspective, it's something that makes us extremely proud.
I agree. You see a good solid base of leadership and talent, which is secure, but is ready to bide its time for the right opportunity, is an incredible position. Let me bring you back to India. I think my next question, there are very few who would be able to handle and respond better, given your Indian heritage, your knowledge of the market. What is your view on Indian homegrown brands versus international brands like Marriott? How are the Indian brands doing? The positives and areas of improvement and development.
I have always had the utmost respect for all the Indian brands. And, for years, I've now said this on public forums as well as in private, that Indian hospitality companies really created an incredible legacy of hospitality. When you look at the great work over the years, Oberoi, Taj, ITC has done, it's been truly remarkable. And I started my career with one of them, right? And they've continued to build and get stronger and stronger and stronger. All of them. So I think, from my perspective, they are incredibly strong hospitality brands, particularly within the country. They have opportunity to go global. Some have, others have not. But I don't know them well enough to really talk about their weaknesses necessarily. But to me, when you look back over the years of, be it the great palaces that were created, or food and beverage concepting like the likes of Bukhara and Dampuk and stuff that ITC did when I was with them many, many moons ago. This is incredible. And you look around Asia Pacific, right? There are not many countries. In fact, you could count those countries on one hand that created their own hospitality brands. And India has numerous of them. So one has to give them all the respect there is. There have also been incredible schools, for talent. And look world over, a lot of talent all around the world, not only in hotels, but in service industries, is come from these companies. So I have nothing but admiration for the great work the Indian hotel brands have done.
Truly, truly. So we need to see them really take on the global bigs and be there and make a position for themselves. Why not? Made in India.
More the merrier, I say.
Absolutely.
Competition is always good.
Healthy competition and good competition with respect for each other.
I agree.
In your view, Raj, what are some of the current trends that you notice in sustainable hospitality? And how do you ensure that sustainability and resilience go hand in hand?
So, Bhuvnesh, I will say this, that sustainability is becoming a big part of deep conversations that our customers are having with us, but also more importantly, our associates are having with us, right? It's no more a slogan. And major companies have to really put a stake in the ground and be held accountable when it comes to sustainability. I will also say this, that COVID has broadly set the industry back a little bit on this front, because a number of initiatives that many of us had launched, you literally had no capacity to continue to execute against. But as we slowly come out of the pandemic, we've got to be overly aggressive in this space. And it's very clear that consumers will give preference to brands who are not only focused, but are clearly measuring and delivering against their sustainability goals. So for us as a company, we have always believed in what's measurable is achievable. That's how the balanced scorecard comes into play. And we are working off of very clear measurable goals on that front. On the consumer side, what we also did, because we found that there was quite an urge as travelers got out and started to travel, that they wanted to give back to the community. They wanted to almost, they were saying to themselves, how am I making this planet better? We launched last year an initiative which we call as Good Travel with Marriott Bonvoy. And that was really, initially we had launched it in about 17 resorts and hotels around. And now this year we're expanding it to pretty much every hotel across the country and across Asia Pacific, sorry. And really it's driven by that as our customers travel to our hotels, say you show up at the Sheraton in Maldives, right? You have the option to work with the local NGOs and go and plant coral in the reef around the resort.
Wow.
Now, this is government approved agency. This is not something that Marriott has picked and is our supplier. It's somebody who's professional, It's been approved, and they're already doing this work. But what we find is a lot of our customers, Bonvoy members particularly, with their families, want to indulge in these activities to help either take care of the planet or give back to the communities, and so on. So you will see on our front more announcements coming out in the next few months of very clear, measurable goals that we'll continue to work towards and report out to the broader community, just to clearly articulate that as a company, we will continue to take a leadership role in sustainability.
Good. Yeah, sustainability is extremely close to my heart. For instance, I don't drink out of a plastic bottle. If somebody serves me water out of a disposable plastic bottle, I refuse. As a family, we refuse. According to you, Raj, how critical is digital marketing and social media for a competitive advantage, especially in the current scenario? Given these, what is the Marriott strategy, and how do you make your guests connect emotionally with their products?
I was saying this earlier that we've seen a digital transformation, right? Broadly, as communities, we've leapfrogged in the use of technology in the last 2 years, and predominantly contactless experiences. I don't remember showing up at a restaurant pre-COVID and being given a QR code. And I think if somebody had given me at that time, I may have been out of the restaurant pretty quick, to the point today, when somebody hands you a menu, you kind of like sheepishly looking, should I take it? Or you just say, can you just give me a QR code because it's safer and cleaner, and so on and so forth. That's just a very small example, right? To me, what we have seen over the last many years, there was a very clear trend towards digital transformation. Our business was shifting. People were using digital to interact with us. Our Marriott Bonvoy app, for example, pre-COVID, we had done a lot of work on it. Today, as a Marriott Bonvoy member, you can book a hotel room on the app. You'll get confirmation. You'll get told when you land in the city that your hotel is ready, your room is ready. You get directions to the hotel. Once you get to the hotel, you can actually follow the app to the elevator, use the app to go up to your room, the mobile phone to open the key. In the room, you can interact with the hotel associates using mobile chat, mobile dining, make all kinds of requests. And as you leave the hotel, you can do an express checkout, and you have not interacted with one individual if you choose not to.
Brilliant.
Right? You can give your feedback, all of that. Marriott Bonvoy app does that today as we speak. Now, from our perspective, we want to give our customers the choice. Some truly prefer this kind of experience. And then there are others who want to show up at the front desk, who want to interact, who want to be able to get that real hospitality experience that they've always loved. And we're able to deliver both. But we are seeing a dramatic shift in terms of how business is being done. In some cases, close to 40, 45% of the bookings are coming through our digital engines. And this trend is going to continue. So for any company that is not in that space, my piece to them is that you're losing out big time.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So On Marriott front, we believe when it comes to the industry, we're definitely on the forefront, and we continue to push ourselves. In fact, I will say this, that in Asia Pacific today, we have more local language websites than most of our competitors. Just last year alone, we launched 3 additional sites. We launched Thai, we launched Bahasa, we launched Vietnamese.
Oh, very nice.
Right. And while we've had, Chinese and others, Japanese, Korean, number of other sites, it's been important, right? Because people want to talk to you in their local language. They want to interact with you in their local language. But today they want to interact with you online in their local language. So having that ability is critically important. And I think this is not a short-term trend. It's going to continue to shift in that direction, because when you look at the younger generations,
Exactly,
they are living through their mobile device.
they find it so much more convenient. They don't want to, dial up anybody. It's all off the mobile. So, and
it's all about texting. It's about, I often say to my kids, pick up the phone and call. They're like, what's the need? That just, answer the text, answer the message. And that could be on anything, Snapchat, WhatsApp, you name, all the options are available to them.
And this is not just sticky, it's growing, pandemic or no pandemic, it's here to stay.
That's true.
Right. I'll stay with the Marriott loyalty program, the Marriott Bonvoy. It's extremely successful, like you said. How will it shape up over the next few years? What more?
So our vision is to make Marriott Bonvoy part of people's daily life, right? They might not even be staying at a hotel. And I'll give you examples. This year, we will launch our Ritz-Carlton yachts, right? In the US, for years, Marriott has had our co-branded credit cards. Last year in Asia, we launched our co-branded credit card in Korea, and it was a very successful launch. We launched our second co-branded credit card in Japan. We announced a major partnership with Rakuten, which has, I think, almost 100 million members, a Japanese population out of a total 130 million Japanese population. So when you think about Bonvoy, it is really about incredible experiences that we want to create for our customers beyond just the hotel space. So in Asia, today we are launching, we started last year and it's going to continue to get expanded, that as a Bonvoy member, you may not even be staying in a hotel like you're in Delhi. You could show up at the JW Marriott AeroCity. You could use food and beverage outlet. You could go to K3 and have a great meal and earn points and have the option of burning points, right? That I have 100,000 points. I'm going to have a meal. It may cost me 5,000 points. I'm going to burn my points rather than pay cash for it. And we believe through these digitized, seamless experiences, the app, the partnerships that we have, co-branded credit card where you may not even be at a hotel. You're buying your groceries and you're at a petrol station, but you're using the co-branded credit card, that we are becoming part of your daily life. And I think that is an important element from the point of view of just building on loyalty experiences. Something that we've done quite well over the last few years is, with Bonvoy, given our customers the option of selecting experiences. For example, pre-COVID, we still sponsor Mercedes during Formula One. So in Singapore, pre-COVID, when Grand Prix did take place, it hasn't taken place in the last couple of years, we had an evening where a number of our customers paid some serious amount of Bonvoy points to come and have a private interaction with Hamilton, right? Similarly, we sponsor Mumbai Indians on IPL side. As of this year, we are sponsoring Australian Open tennis, Manchester United. So when you look at much of these great sports activities and our partnerships that's associated with this, it really is to give our Bonvoy members the option of, for you, Hamilton may be a hero, but for somebody else, it may be Nadal, or it could be a great soccer player, or Virat Kohli. And if we can somehow create those experiences where our members can interact, it's just amazing. Because I often hear from our members that those are priceless experiences, right? So that's just one example. But everything else I've talked about, it really is, as long as we
I'm not sure I understand.
That's Siri, sorry. As long as we can become the daily part of their life and be able to give them access to these experiences, we think we'll continue to build on loyalty.
True. I want to digress to another important part of your business, right? Very critical to Marriott and our industry, owners. They are very strong partners. What is your message and for the owners and for the industry?
Owners, for us, are basically one of three most important stakeholders, right? It is owners, it's our customers, and it's our associates, in simple terms. I always say, take it as a three-legged stool. Mm-hmm. We can't live without one. Mm-hmm. And owners play a critical role for a company like ours. We have been incredibly blessed to have great partners. And through COVID, I will say this, that we have learned a lot from each other. In fact, much of the way how we've been able to navigate through the crisis has been thanks to the owners, helping us, guiding us, because they are on the ground in many cases with our teams. And it is a true partnership. It is not a one-way street by any means. Right? The other thing I've always said is, irrespective, sometimes it may feel that you may disagree with an owner, but as a partner, it's the respect you carry for each other, right? And ultimately, that trust, when you look at our history, you look at our growth, we have grown in most cases with our existing partners. So to me, they play a vital role in our success. And we wouldn't be where we are without their support and the partnership. And think about the early days. I'm talking about 99, 2000, initial partnership with Salgaonkar family in Goa, or Rahejas in Mumbai, or for that matter, Chodias in Pune. And similarly on starboard side, you had the Bhosles in Pune, you had a number of other families. And you look back, we've broadened those relationships. Today, the Razak family, Prestige in Bangalore, as an example, and I can continue naming names, right? Every single one of them have played a huge part in our success over the last 20 odd years that we've grown in the market. And forget India, in every country that we operate. And really, my belief has always been that in terms of local knowledge, that connectivity that our owner partners have, it's vital for us. And we often take their guidance in doing what we need to do. Now, what we bring on the table is, global expertise, local expertise of, be it on the design front or on the execution front of running hotels, delivering incredible results. But if both sides are not exceptionally well connected, it doesn't work. And in our case, I have to say we've been blessed. We have incredible partnerships.
The results show, don't they? The numbers.
Yeah, they do.
I keep coming back to people. I keep coming back to employees. How do you make your employees feel connected to the company, Marriott? If you can let us have a glimpse of your strategy for making Marriott the happiest workplace for employees.
I said this earlier, that simple core philosophy that senior Mr. and Mrs. Marriott started with back in 1927. So when you think about it, it'll be 95 years for us as a company this year. And the simple philosophy is, if we take great care of our people will take great care of our customers, right? And the business will keep coming back and back, and business takes care of itself. So I'll give you a couple of examples. When we started doing business in India, everybody in the industry worked for 6 days a week, right? We were the newbies. We came in and we said, we like our associates to work 5.5 days a week. That meant every other week you'll get 2 days off. We weren't the most popular hotel company amongst our competitors, right? But for us, it was about creating an environment where, while people worked hard, they also had the ability to take that little extra time off to spend with their families, and just feel connected. Because I can tell you, as a hotelier growing up in the early days, we were all doing 14-hour days nonstop, right? So I think it was that small a step. There are many other examples that I can continue to talk about. simple thing like an associate cafeteria. From early on, everybody, the leadership team, the associates, sit together and eat in the same place. There were weeks where we would, as leadership team, go in the kitchen and cook for the associates. Where I'm going, Bhuvnesh, is if you give people the respect, if you allow them the opportunities for growth, give them the roadmap, empower them, and give them the skill set, generally, they thrive. And, you know, in terms of having fun, I've always said this, that luckily our business is a happy business. So it's our choice, we can make it a drab business, or you can keep the fun element going, not only in the front, but also at the back. And it's that strong connection. When you create that and build that environment, people, even on their off days, want to show up to work and hang out with their colleagues. Now, ideally, we push them back and say, go and enjoy the time with your family. But that's what it takes, right? And you look at many leaders today who started from line level positions, and you ask them, why did they stick it out with Marriott? And they'll tell you, because it's the opportunities, it's the respect, it's my colleagues, the team that I worked with, that I'm just so proud of, and I'm no different as a leader.
Tell me, Raj, this is unplanned questions. Marriott has a lot of strong brands, and also in India. Any new brands that you're planning to bring in?
Yeah, we have as you know, globally, we have over 30 brands. So we will, in the short term, we will be bringing Moxie into India.
When is that?
It's going to be towards the end of this year, if not early next year. Mm-hmm. And I am very bullish on Moxie. It's a very strong lifestyle, millennial, young brand. It's doing exceptionally well in markets around the world, growing at an exponential pace because, be it New York or be it Europe or Japan, customers love it. And we see that it'll have a great connection with the Indian community, particularly the young ones and the young at heart ones.
Aloft was supposed to do that.
Yeah, see, Aloft was always like the young W, right? And Aloft is growing, but I would say Moxie is getting some seriously good accolades out there. So we think as we bring Moxie to India, it'll do quite well.
So that is a good question to get a response to. Hard-nosed part of the session over. I'm coming into the softer side of it. Raj, tell me, footprints in the sands of time. How would you want to be recalled and known for by the industry, or for that matter, employees, your team, your colleagues?
Just somebody who helped people build careers, and global careers at that.
Very nice, short and crisp. Working across international time zones can be tough, and that brings us to our next question. For you, the globe-trotting hotelier, and your life away from the corner room. How does Raj unwind your work ethic and work-life balance? Give us some clues to your fitness you just did and your discipline.
So I mentioned that, my wife and I have 3 young kids. We obviously live in Singapore. Pre-COVID, I was traveling at least 3 weeks a month. But my rule was that anywhere I was, I would typically fly back home on a Friday night or early Saturday morning. I would spend the weekend at home, and then I would get back out on the road. But weekends were sacrosanct for the family. I talked about the exercise regime, right? When you live the life we do, you have to be focused on your health. And from my perspective, very simple rule again, just 1 marathon a week. Figure out how you're going to get to those 40 odd kilometers in course of 7 days. If you can do that, you can do it in 3 days, you can do it in 5 days, you can do it in 7 days. But it's just, staying disciplined enough to do that, keeping in mind that hoteliers like me love the food and beverage part of the business, right? And it's all the more important for that reason, to also be healthy. In terms of unwind, for me, it's about family. It's about playing tennis. It's about a nice meal with friends, some nice wine, and I'm happy and ready to unwind.
That sounds simple. Yeah. They often say you can take a Delhiite out of Delhi, but not Delhi out of a Delhiite. Is there any truth in that? Delhi means a lot to you, where your parents are, where your family is. Shed some light on that.
So it's the city I was born in. I grew up in, right? That strong connection. I went to school at Naval Public School in Chanakyapuri. Grew up around that diplomatic area. Spent early years at Pusa doing hotel management. There's some deep-rooted connections which will never go away. And one day when I have the time, I love to come back and explore the town more. I unfortunately, every time I'm back, I'm just bouncing between meetings or family, and you don't get to, get the time to go to Old Delhi and do some of the things that we used to. But there is so much special about Delhi. I remember with my mother going to Bangla Sahib. She would go every Thursday. Tuesday, if you were coming back from Pusa, Hanuman Mandir or whatever, right? There was just so much diversity, be it in activities, be it in incredible food options. I have very, very fond memories of doing some amazing things with family members, with friends, and that part will never go away. And I think, if there's something I like to do when I have more time, is just come and explore the New Delhi that I left behind many, many years ago, because it has changed quite a bit.
So let us know when you're coming. We shall do a special with you. That walk with Raj around Delhi.
Love to.
Last but not the least, your message to the industry and to the aspiring hoteliers across various hospitality schools who are eager to step into the industry to carve a career for themselves.
The long-term fundamentals of our industry remain very, very strong. Let the last 2 years not disappoint you or depress you in any way. For me, I always believe it's a learning journey. We need to have taken the best out of the crisis and use it to build a stronger future. To the young aspiring talents, I will say that, like any business, we go through these cyclical ups and downs, and we're just going through a bit of a rough trot. That means that when the upside comes, it'll be pretty strong. And if you are well prepared, you've learned through the crisis, then you will be best positioned to make the most of it when the upside comes. And at the end of the day, our business has just been a great fun business. It's a business that is driven by a lot of passion. And I just wish that there are many who would continue to enjoy the business like I have, not only for myself, but also, seeing this incredible talent pool around, just building careers, and hopefully that trend will just continue. And I generally see India particularly as decades and decades long growth story. There's so much exciting, there's so much more coming our way, there's so much innovation that's happening in our business. So I think our future is incredibly bright, and I look forward to continuing the journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Raj. It's truly been a pleasure bringing you to the legion of your followers and the legion of the followers of BWH Hotelier. I've been looking forward to doing this for a while now. You are not just a successful hotelier, but you're one of the more successful hotelier exports from India. And there are a lot of people who are going to be watching this interview, and this shall stay here. And we look forward to bringing you back in person to India to one of the BW Hotelier events, be it the EHA or a brand new property, which we are going to launch very soon. We would be delighted to have you over and see you soon. And thank you for your time, Raj.
Thanks again. Look forward to seeing you in person soon. Thanks again. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.